Okay, we're back again, zipping between blog and... yeah, maybe this is a complicated way to do it. I don't know. I have to figure out a better one. If you've got a better idea or how this could be made better, send me an email to madebetter@begintocodewithjavascript.com and I'll see if I can make it better. I'm figuring this out as I go along. If that shows, I don't really apologize because it's not as if you've paid me any money. Right, so we have a thing called a for loop, and a for loop has a setup, a update, and a test. And let me show you a for loop and we can talk about it, talk out our problems with for loops. Here we go. Now the setup bit is this bit here. And that's done once, and it says let I equal 0. So we're going to make a thing called I equal to 0. The test bit is next, and the test bit is either truthy or falsy. And the test bit here is I less than 10. So if I is less than 10, that will be truthy. So we're going to big around 10 times perhaps. And the update thing is this last statement here, I equals I plus 1. That has the effect of making I bigger excuse me, each time it's called. It runs. And the statement is this thing here, console.log. We haven't seen that before, but if I hit return and run this little for loop program in JavaScript, I think you'll understand what's happening. Boom. So console.log says whatever you put in the brackets, I'm going to log to the console. So the first time round the loop, I is 0. Second time round, it's 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way to 9. 10 is not printed because 10 is not less than 10. So at that point, this condition becomes false and the whole loop thing stops. You may be asking, and you're allowed to, why does it print undefined? Now that's not being logged. That's being produced because a for loop does not produce a result of anything. It's basically a JavaScript statement that does a job but doesn't provide a value. So this is not being produced by the for loop. It's being produced by JavaScript, and I can prove that. Watch this. So I'm going to make a loop that, kind of stupid, but we can do it. I'm going to put the word false in there, like that. So that means that my control condition is false before we start. It will never run. Boom. I still get the undefined message though, because of the fact that that's come from Java, not my loop. So next question. Make the loop bigger. Yeah, I can do that. I can make it go for 20 times. Just change this endpoint to 20 and now, boom, it's twice as long. Still no 20 though, because it's less than that stops it. So you can put anything in there which controls your loop. And I want to use this for counting through these guys, the various elements in the list. And it looks like the for loop is a perfect way to use this. Now, you may have noticed something that I've kind of glossed over, but I'm going to have to come back now and explain it. Let. What on earth is let? When we've made a variable, we have used the word var. And we've said var I equals 0, and that means I now have a variable called I, which if I look at it returns the value 0. Okay, let I just different. Let j equals 0 makes a variable called j, and again I can look at j and see what's in it, and wow, it's got 0 in. What is the difference between var and let? Well, this is a profound question. And it has to do with making the number of things that can possibly go wrong as small as possible. Programmers talk about error footprints and footprints of code and things. The bigger your footprints, the more chance there is of something bad happening. And if I make a var variable, that variable exists forever. It exists inside the system. Forever's a good, right? There's a lot of it about it. And so if you pick a variable that somebody else has also chosen with the same name, you're going to have a clash. So 2 or 3 people are working on a program, which can happen. One of them thinks that I is a great name for counting, declares it as a var. Someone else uses it for something else. And now we have a clash because both of these people are fighting over the same name. And Java won't tell you this has happened. It will just carry on and do its own merry and probably wrong thing. What let does is it says, I'm going to make you a variable, but it will only live for a certain amount of time. And in the case of this loop here, I'm going to reset the browser, and I'm going to say, is there a variable called I? And the answer, well, is there a variable called I? Ask me, is I? No, just call it I, my friend, not. No, there's nobody called I. And if I run the for loop, 10 will do, Rob, don't go nuts here, 10 will do, then there's still nobody called I. Because the let here says only allow the I variable to exist inside the for loop. Let's rework this. Let's just do this. If I say var, like that, still get our thing, but now if I go I, it's got the last possible variable. I hope you can see that. Well, why would you not? It's right in front of you. If I say let, go back up here, then I can't use I outside this for loop. If I say var here, then I lives on beyond the loop. I probably don't want that because I don't want someone thinking this thing is meaningful or using what's there. And so I only want this thing to exist inside the statement controlled by the for loop. Let allows me to do that. Now, it's a good feature. It's a thing you should get used to using. If you're making a variable that you know only has to exist in a certain part of the code, put it in a block, that's the curly brackets thing, declare it using let, and then when your program leaves that block, the variable disappears and is not available anywhere else. So I'm using let because I want to fix it so that I don't expose myself to a problem if somebody else uses a variable called I somewhere else in the program. Now, people go on about JavaScript because they've got nothing better to talk about, I suppose. I don't know. And they say that some parts of JavaScript are a bit dangerous in terms of making it possible to make silly mistakes. Var is one of those because var makes a variable much more visible than it needs to be. And if it's too visible, people can break it. And if it can get broken, your program will have bugs in, and we've already seen that bugs are a bad thing. So that's kind of how it works. But I don't want to detract from the central point of this, which is my for loop that I can put in a start point, an end point, an update, and an action. And so I now have a way of zooming through a list of, say, fairground rides or theme park rides and doing things with them. And with that, we'll go back to the text.